It was the first of a long line of Browning designs manufactured by the Colt Firearms Company in Hartford, Connecticut. This was the Colt Model 1903.
This gun is the ultimate in ergonomics. It is an extension of one's hand as opposed to something one is grasping. It feels like something that belongs very naturally in the hand. One could not even imagine a better ergonomic design than the 1903 Colt/Browning pistol.
The 1903 was an example of what Browning called his parallel ruler design. The sliding breech was built completely parallel with the frame and resembled a ruler. It is a design that has been copied again and again for nearly 100 years.
This design is so sophisticated that it's basically the same design that they use today. There are a few changes nowadays, but in terms of the springs inside, the actual function of the trigger, the type of magazine, and the general function and engineering, this is reaching perfection. It is a Browning classic.
Because it could be easily concealed, pocket models of the Colt 1903 found favor with gangsters of the 1920s and 30s. Al Capone is reputed to have kept one in his coat pocket. Capone's accountant, Jake Guzik, carried one for protection in his vest.
A lot of civilians carried the Colt 1903 because a very handy gun, very easy to use and very simple. Gangsters carried them, officers carried them in the military.
General George S. Patton had a Colt 1903 with him as he led the 3rd Army's sweep across France and into Germany during World War II.
There's a very famous story of him firing at a German dive bomber with his Colt 32 automatic pistol. Of course, a 32 bullet would not have a great effect on a German dive bomber without a great deal of luck, but the man was unquestionably truly courageous, and he did fire at the German dive bomber with a pistol identical to this.
Today, a direct descendant of the Model 1903 is still made at the Colt factory in Hartford, Connecticut. Colt's director of handguns makes sure it lives up to the legacy.
This is the 380 Pocket Light. It's the great-grandson of the 1903 Browning design. And what we've done in modern time is to take his design of a small, lightweight pocket pistol that a person can carry for self-defense on their person and put it in a configuration that is really user-friendly. We've made a double-action only gun now, which means a long pull of the trigger, like a revolver, is required for each shot. Made of stainless steel and aluminum construction, and is really a continuation of Browning's thoughts into the 20th century.
In its day, the original Colt Model 1903 had laid the groundwork for a superb military pistol. Its only real shortcoming was the .32 caliber bullet it fired. It was simply too small for combat. The answer was another Browning-Colt collaboration. Its .45 caliber bullet was nearly half an inch in diameter. This was the Model 1911, better known as the Colt 45 automatic.
This is an extremely powerful gun. This gun is capable of stopping a 200-pound man in his tracks when he is full of adrenaline and ready to attack you and running towards you. If you hit him any place other than his hand, if you hit him in the shoulder, if you hit him in the leg, if you hit him in any part of the body, he will most likely stop. This gun has what is known as stopping power.
Inside the Colt 45, a swinging link lowers the barrel after each shot. This allows the spent case to eject and the next cartridge to come up out of the spring-loaded magazine. Most modern automatic pistols still rely on the same design. Adopted by the United States military in 1911, the Colt 45 was the sidearm of American forces through World War I, World War II, and beyond. Soldiers were trained in proper firing positions for the big gun and learned how to control its strong recoil. Demonstrations even proved that compared to the Army's M1 carbine, the Colt 45 was more powerful. During World War II, demand for the Model 1911 was so high that companies like Singer and Remington Rand, that normally made sewing machines and typewriters, manufactured the pistol as part of the war effort. The U.S. Army was so satisfied with the performance of the Model 1911 that it continued to be the soldier's sidearm in Korea, Vietnam, and was not retired until a few years before Operation Desert Storm.
The key to the 1911 Colt's longevity was utter reliability, simplicity, strength, and combat effectiveness. It rarely went wrong. You could drop it, you could throw it, you could dip it in a bucket of water, you could throw it in the sand, cover it with mud, wipe it with your hand, still work.
On the home front, it was the weapon of choice on both sides of the law. FBI agents carried the Colt 45 in the 1920s and 30s. Public enemy number one, John Dillinger, after being shot by FBI agents in a gun battle, died with a Model 1911 in his hand in Chicago in 1934. Some 90 years after it was introduced, the Model 1911 is still in production at the Colt factory. And every one manufactured here is still held to the standard of the original Browning design.
This is John Browning's original prototype for the 1911 45 service pistol. Only one of two of them ever made, and we have this one here at the factory. We here at Colt hold this gun in very, very high regard. It's left in the original in the white. It was never finished. It was a functioning model, and Mr. Browning and other people at Colt actually shot this gun with the military.
The Colt 45 remains a favorite among the shooting public and still sees action with law enforcement in the hands of the Texas Rangers.
This is the Texas Ranger 175th commemorative gun. What we have here is a highly refined 1911 John Browning design. It has a refined trigger system, low-mounted sights for their specification, and other internal tolerances that were geared towards heavy use that might be experienced by a man in that position.
The 1911 was a model of power and reliability, but lawmen and soldiers who carried it for a living also came to know its one drawback. It was heavy, 2.5 pounds unloaded. The future promised automatics that were smaller and lighter, but still packed a wallop. For 75 years, the official sidearm of the United States Armed Forces remained the Colt 45 automatic, first introduced in 1911. But in 1985, after exhaustive testing, the U.S. government adopted a new pistol of Italian design, the Beretta 92F. It is the pistol that was carried into Operation Desert Storm and is expected to arm U.S. forces throughout the world well into the 21st century.
The huge advantage of this over the Colt M1911 is firepower. This is a gun that will discharge 17 times as opposed to 7 times. You can carry far more ammunition. The operation of it is extremely smooth. The parts feel as though they're on roller bearings, and for most people the grip is far more comfortable than the grip on a Colt M1911. This is the standard of excellence to which automatic pistols have aspired for more than 100 years.
The 92F has its roots in Mussolini's Italy of the late 1930s. At that time, designers at the Pietro Beretta factory began work on a service automatic to compete with the American-made Colt. 50 years and one world war later, Beretta, the oldest firearms company in the world, began manufacturing the modern 92F in the USA at its factory in Accokeek, Maryland. On the test range, the Beretta 92F proved that it could fire 7,000 times without failure. The gun also produces less recoil than earlier big automatics. This makes the gun less intimidating for entry-level shooters and new recruits.
This is a truly ambidextrous gun. I mean, if you're left-handed, the safety operates from the left. All of the other firearms are made for right-handed people and are very difficult for people who are left-handed to operate.
In addition to its role on the battlefield, the Beretta 92F has also become popular in law enforcement. Nearly 1,000 police departments in the United States issue the Beretta pistols to their officers. It is in law enforcement that one dangerous flaw in the 92F was discovered. If held at arm's length from a suspect, that person could reach out, grab the barrel of the gun, slide it back, and strip it off. The result is a useless pistol. Proper training and a new retaining piece have all but eliminated the hazard. Still, the Beretta is not the only modern choice for military or police work. It swept the military and law enforcement worlds in 1984 after it was introduced by an Austrian firm previously known for cutlery. The factory and the gun are both called Glock.
This is a Glock 10mm semi-automatic pistol. I think probably the most important thing in the general public's eye is the fact that the Glock legitimized the concept of a polymer frame. In other words, the frame of this gun is made out of plastic.
At first, news of a plastic gun caused scares that it would become the choice of hijackers and terrorists, since it would not be detectable by airport x-rays and metal detectors. For a short time, the U.S. government even tried to ban importation of the so-called plastic handguns. In fact, the Glock steel slide and barrel contained more metal than some conventional pocket pistols, making it an unlikely candidate for evading airport security. By molding the gun's frame in polymer plastic, Glock succeeded in producing a pistol that is both stronger and lighter than most battle-ready automatics.
Despite the fact that it's got a, quote, plastic grip, it's very, very strong. You can do all sorts of things to them. They can stand drop tests like virtually no other auto pistol. You can stomp on them, you can throw them, you can drive trucks on them. It's a strong, reliable pistol.
The Glock carries 17 bullets in its magazine. Fully loaded, it weighs less than most comparable pistols when they are empty. Enthusiasts have nicknamed it the Plastic Fantastic, while its detractors have dubbed it Combat Tupperware. But love it or hate it, half of all American law enforcement agencies believe the Glock is the most accurate and reliable automatic pistol available. To control recoil, Glocks have been introduced with exhaust ports on top of the barrel. When these so-called compensated barrels are in action, the gun fires smoothly and looks like a fire-breathing dragon.
Glock auto pistols feel very good in the hand. The angle of the grip is good. The actual design and ergonomics of the pistol are very good. It feels lighter than a normal all-steel pistol, obviously. It's reliable. It feels good when it's fired. It's a natural pointer.
One curious feature is that the Glock design does not include a traditional safety button.
It has what's called a safe action, which means the gun is basically carried in a cocked manner safely. This little lever here, this little button, and that's your safe action. And if you pull back here, you can see you can't pull that trigger back. But as soon as you push the little lever, I should do it from this side so you can see it, then the gun will fire.